and we should be golden.
Nice. We are live. I want to welcome everyone to Coffee Talk Podcast number 6. Name TV, maybe 1 month in, leagues 1 month in.
Something like that.
It's like something like that. I do want to say just real quick, if you want to find any of our past broadcasts, you can find them on our website, thecoffeetalkpodcast.com. You can subscribe, RSS, iTunes, Google Play. It'll be on Nugi's YouTube. I think what have we said by Monday morning that's what our goal is, right?
Yeah, Monday morning US and Monday around 12 EU.
Okay. And then sometime in the next hour or two after that, it'll be up on all of that stuff. So for podcasts and feeds and everything. And I do want to say we've tried to have a countdown timer on the website, and much to my chagrin, it seems to be a little buggy.
A little malfunction on the timer.
I don't really understand. I had several people check it. It said it was fine last night. I come in today, people say, oh, it's 15 hours from now. And I go, what? I go into the website.
Yeah.
I look at it, and then it updates and it's fine. So there's something weird. So we're soon. I hope. Oh my God, I can't be this hard. But
I went in to just check whether or not I was completely sure on the time, and it said 15 hours, 8 hours before.
And it's just such a strange. It's a plugin or a widget. So I don't understand. I all I did was plug in the time, and then the moment I put in another timer, doing it. There's 2 ways you can do it. You can have a countdown, like say 8 hours, or you can pick the date. Like I could say April 9th, 4 p.m. and it's server time, and it's my New York time server time. So I just pick my time when we're going to do the podcast, and then it worked. And then it updated the 15 hours. So there's something, I don't know. I'm sure that we're not paying enough money to have a server that updates all the time or something or whatever. I don't know. So I'm going to investigate. It's on my list of things.
Okay.
So, yes. So this is the time, though. 2 p.m. Eastern, which is, I don't know what that is, GMT?
Well, it is apparently UTC. There's UTC, which is the... UTC is like the universal time, whatever, for everyone. And it's... It's 6 p.m. UTC. Regardless of anyone's summertime or wintertime or savings or whatever.
No, that's right. Because we are in America, we're -5 from that Greenwich Mean Time, which I think is what UTC is, and then the daylight savings has affected that for me. So now it's -4. Anyway, whatever. Enough of that. So we've been sort of seeing these. I mean, I don't know. Have there really been a lot of posts about it? I feel like there's been some posts, but on the Exalt price and the chaos ratio, and
I think we have daily posts on how people can't fathom the fact that it's now 100 and something C.
What is it actually? I'm going to look right now. So
last time I checked, it was 107.
It was 107 in Legacy. So what do you think is the cause of that? Just before we go into it.
I think there's many. I think there's a lot of factors here that push up the price of Exalt. One is the fact that Sana mods is not something people use in this league. They're GG's right now experimenting with the Sana Master, which is the one that grants extra mods for your maps. And in the past, there are very interesting mods you could put on there to generate more maps or currency or add something useful to get some kind of benefit, XP or maps or items or whatever.
Now, wait, remind me, have those changed? Because I never really used them in the past.
Yes, they have changed.
Right.
They used to be that you could put the Beyond affix on there. You could add extra blue monsters with some quantity, like Bloodlines. You could add Onslaught for just quantity. It does make sense that those are not in the game, or they are not on the Sana right now, because we have all the League Stones, which are essentially the same thing. So it makes sense that they're not both places.
Well, I didn't mean the between now and then. I meant, didn't they change it once before at some point? Hasn't it changed
the
twice?
Sana stuff? Yeah. No, they've changed it before. Oh, I don't remember the previous one.
Okay. Because, I mean, that must have been broken and why they changed. I feel like there was something someone was doing it Wasn't it just Beyond in Bloodlines or something? And that was insane, and they nerfed it.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
But anyways, now we get spiders for 6 chaos, which adds nothing. So that, or we can get some sweet monster life that just makes everything take longer for a measly 10. I think you add 50 monster life for 3 chaos or 2 chaos, and you get 10 quant.
14. I thought it was 14 for that one. There's 2. Isn't it like 12? Yeah, something. You're right.
The level 3, the level 3 one.
Oh, level 3 one. Okay, yeah.
It's like 50% extra monster life. And if you equate that to what a chisel's worth, right? So we add for around the chaos, depending on chisel price, we add 20% quant with no downside. You can add for twice the cost. You can put on another 10 quant, and you add 50 monster life, which is just annoying to deal with.
Right.
So it's never worth it. The upside is there's no real upside. So that's why nobody's using it. And so that's one of the chaos kind of
sinks.
Yeah, sinks. Sink, that was the word I was looking for. One of the chaos sinks that people used to have. I also think that the fact that the more people actually populate the community, this is one of my thoughts, because every time I've seen, the more players you see in any given league being active, the easier it is to accumulate chaos. At least from my perspective, it has been. So there's more of a flow of chaos going up towards the people who are putting out all these, like who are either purchasing Exalts or putting out big items for sale, for sale and stuff like that. And so now you just have everything just goes up in price in terms of chaos.
Right. Well, I mean, PoE is a pyramid scheme, right? I don't mean that that's a negative in real life, but to have sort of the economy work, they want the serfs farming the chisels and sending it to the people who turn that into, gold, however they do it. So then the thing that's so interesting to me is I've always really kind of contended that the problem is, I think all the things you said are 100% accurate.
It's
well, I'm just saying those are you're not like, it's not like a conspiracy theory. Those are
no.
Conceivably be possible. I just always have felt that people remember the chaos price from last league.
Yes.
And that's why there's and always has felt that there's a leap very quickly to that price, whatever it was.
Yes.
Faster than it really should be. And that's why once you get to the price it was last league, it then stays there for a while. So then people are like, okay, so it's kind of stabilized at that point. And then at some point, either market forces or unfortunately maybe price fixing, and some of these other things, then starts to push the price up or down, depending. Yeah, whichever direction. Because I'm trying to remember what league it was where Exalts became, in hardcore, became less valuable. Where people were just, and chaos started being the thing we were stacking. And I feel like Exalts were more expensive than they should have been if really people were using chaos a lot, and then it shot back down.
I think there was a league or two where we definitely had there wasn't much to use the Exalt for. Slamming ES gear was not really a thing. I think that's one thing that drives Exalt prices up, is the fact that ES gear is like the main go-to craft, because there's always a good upside of slamming or putting on an Exalt on a piece of gear that can either get the hybrid roll or something else that will boost the ES. You can't do that with life gear. Assume the opposite is now true, and ES gear is no longer valuable, and nobody really plays that, so nobody cares. And now you only have life gear. Well, the upside of getting a good Exalt on a piece of life gear is far less, right? It's far less, at least I would say, it's far less than when you talk about ES gear. There's a much higher upside or potential. There's a lot higher potential in ES gear rather than life gear. And so I think that adds into the value of the Exalt right now, because it's just such a versatile piece of currency that everyone has a use for, especially at the higher end.
Right. And I mean, I can say from my personal experience last league, crafting a helm for my ED character.
Yeah.
And I bought a hubris with temp chain. I mean, I can see why they nerfed the area of effect and some of that stuff, because the temp chains helm plus 2020 temp chains plus 2020 blasphemy monsters basically didn't move when I was near them. And so, but crafting that, I never got anything good. I think I settled on 270 ES and maybe triple res with a master craft. And I slammed a bunch of things. So yeah, you can see if you're really trying to craft something good, there is a lot of potential there. And so it's interesting that you say that, because I guess that is the real difference between life and hybrid gear, or sorry, ES gear, where there's the hybrid roll and some other things that can happen for ES. But life, you just get a really good utility. Either it's you get percentage armor, which of course is nice, but as we all know, armor is like the worst stat in the game in terms of defense, and then for what it does per point, and then you get strength maybe as a suffix, and that's really kind of it. There's nothing, you wouldn't slam MS on a pair of boots. I mean, maybe some might try for fun if they're really rich, but so I think it's I think it's really interesting. And I wonder, apparently the ETUP hybrid thing, which he talked about on was that number 4?
Yes.
Is that's being sort of propagated all over the place. I think he's mentioned it other places. He's done other sort of interviews. I think he did an interview with Ziz on AMA or something. So
I believe so, yeah.
So I think it's really, I think that's, the more I think about it, the more I really like the idea of give us something like that. So okay, we can slam for percentage and 30 extra life or whatever, however it would work.
I also think that going on the whole Exalt thing, I think people have caught on to the meta crafting as well with masters, where you scour off suffixes or prefixes and then you slam with Exalts. The same thing with weapons. If you get lucky and you find a weapon with the tyrannical and the hybrid, the emperors or whatever, with the suffix open, and then you scour off all the suffixes, and now you're left with just the tyrannical roll, and you mastercraft that with the attack speed, crit, and the flat fist, and there you go. There's so many ways that you can utilize the Exalt, and the only thing you can there's only one real good way of, or it's like the only, you can't use chaos in the same way. There's not like a bunch of different master mods that can scour off, take on, and then it's not a versatile currency. And now we don't have Xana mods either. And so it just becomes this, either you use it, and I do believe that there is, I don't know if you would agree, but I think that there is some soft, or there is some kind of cap, or what do you call it? There's a cap to the ratio between Exalt and Chaos, to where if the Chaos starts to inflate too much versus the Exalt, well, then people will just start crafting with it on regardless. So you'll never see it go to like 200, because, well, then you just start slamming. You just start accumulating chaos with your Exalts, and you just start generating armors and helmets and shields, and you just chaos spam those, and you put them up and sell them for Exalts, and you just repeat the process. And there's always going to be this fixed ratio between those that people are happy with.
Yeah, and at least for me, I think this sort of, I still would love to see, not to sort of derail a bit, but an auction house just for currency, maybe, or some sort of process where, because currency, it still doesn't achieve the thing you need, right? You still have to craft, which is part of the RNG. You don't, just because I'm able to take my 200 chaos and make it into 10 Exalts, that doesn't mean I'm going to then now have a 900 ES chest, right? I have to go through the whole process still. And so I would hope that would be a thing they would seriously look at. And I do want to say, I looked it up while you were talking. Yeah. Because often people correct me and they're like, well, Tyrannical's not the highest. Of course, when you and I started playing, Tyrannical's highest. Okay, yeah. It's now Merciless.
Merciless, yes. That's the...
But those are eye level 83. So if you're honestly mapping in maps where you can see a weapon like that drop and then scour it off, I guess congrats to you. But I mean, that's not most of the time. You'll have to.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still stuck in 2014 or whatever.
People correct me all the time, and I'm always like, okay, we'll make sure we say. But yeah, I think that's a very good point though. Is the 6 league old thing, meta mod, how to use it. Lightwood's Scandal, Carl post about how meta mods works in terms of keeping things on it, even though you use a scour or a cast or whatever. I think that's sort of that's so known. So people are on the lookout all the time for those items. I know I am.
Also, it takes a while in the league. One of the things why Exalts are stable for quite a while early on is there are so few people with level 8 masters.
Right. And everybody knows the one guy with it. Like the hardcore guy was,
yeah.
I don't know, Esh or East or Esk, or I don't remember something. E something, wasn't it?
Oh, Hector?
Hector, yeah, that's it, yeah. So there's one dude. Softcore, I don't know, might be different. Maybe there's a couple.
Yeah.
But it can't be that. I wouldn't expect it to be, materially different.
No.
I'm actually really curious what those people make, being the first.
I think like tons of currency.
Okay.
I would assume so.
Right. Just sort of a random tangent. How do you feel about master leveling right now? Do you think it's in a good spot where it is right now?
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Just
okay.
I get my master, some of my master to 7. Some of them I enjoy doing a little bit more, and I get them to 8 eventually, and you get them like 6, 7 pretty quickly, and I'm kind of happy with where that is. What about you?
Because I hate masters, but I think that they've got it to a point where I no longer.
Yeah.
I mean, I only do the ones like Haku, Elrion, maybe Zana. So I skip most of the other ones because I find them stupid. Maybe I always do Varici.
Yeah, you click Varici, and if he's like in the direction you're going, you kill the guy, and you get Varici. I really like the changes they made to the Varici stuff, or the just masters in general, that they actually spawn. They spawn on where you are.
You mean when you're done
after
with the mission?
After you're done.
Yes. No, that was, and then it goes back to a point we talked about before, and I really think this is so key that GGG. What I really like about them, and why someone would be like, well, Moors, you get mad about stuff, and like, why would you still play if you're mad about stuff? Well, because I have full confidence that the third version of whatever it is will be really, really good. Right. And like, that's the thing where people are like, what's going on? So what's going on with trading? And like, we're talking about Exalts and all that stuff. I really only think we've only seen one. We're on version 2 of trading, right? Because we had, I mean, I don't really count before. Like drop trading really count. That was, the game wasn't really a game yet. So then there's trading, right? Which we have had. Then there's API, and that's it. We've had no other major changes. So I feel like the third version will be probably pretty good. It's just the fact that it's taken them on this particular thing 5 years to get to the third version. Masters, they got to the third version in a year. I hated it up until then, and then I'm like, okay, now it's a thing I just deal with, and I actually, in some sense, like it a little bit because now that they warp to you, it's free XP and stuff in the map. So
it's one of those things where, why is it supposed to be this tedious or this troublesome to do something in PoE? What is the right? Because before it seemed as if they were just trying to make it more annoying, and it was just like this arbitrary difficulty of completing something where you have to go back, or it can't just spawn on you for whatever justification they might have, being but it doesn't make any sense that he can teleport. Okay. But it does hinder gameplay. Yeah. And so sometimes you kind of have to make some of the gameplay choices more user-friendly rather than lore-friendly.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Well, but I do want to sort of play devil's advocate a little bit, because I do think that their thought process is we need there to be a cost, even if you personally don't like the cost. Because, right, the initial version of the Masters was very strong. Right, they gave you hybrid, which of course they removed. They were like, "Whoops,
whoa, it's a little bit too good."
A little too good. People are like, "Oh, hey, I just randomly crafted a mirror-worthy bow." Whoops. Yeah. So I think that's the thought process. And the thing is, I do, as much as I think there's some adjustments. Part of me, even though I can't believe I'm saying this because I hate Masters, but I want to be consistent, because part of me is like, there has to be some work to something, right? That's why I think it's a very fine line. There's a difference between I have cast and I want Exalts, but that doesn't give me the 900 ES chest. If it was ever the moment I was able to take 200 chaos and it became 10 at 10x, and then I clicked 10x on a piece of gear, and that automatically gave me something that's 3 tier 1, right? That's bad, really bad.
Yes.
But the part that's really fun, which is clicking the gear and it kind of bricks, which of course can be depressing, but we all love it. It's a form of gambling and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But getting from point A to point B, where you start clicking the thing, that's the part that we shouldn't have any problems with. So, I mean, if masters are fun and you can level them and all this other stuff, right, that's great. And it should be tough maybe to level them to get to the level 8, but it shouldn't be tough to complete the mission in the map, right? Because there's no difference. It's just wasting time versus not in terms of running back. So anyway, I that's why I remain eternally hopeful about trading. And I do think that the Exalt, just to come back to it, I think the Exalt prices reflect this lack of, I don't want to say consistent update, but lack of something on trading. Now it does seem like they've, I don't know. I wonder what your thoughts are, because like China, right, has some sort of automated trading. I keep waiting for an update on that, and I can't find anything that's not in Chinese.
I'm not sure how they have theirs. I really haven't done much research into it.
No, I wouldn't expect. I'm just saying it's, they have other things going on. They have eggs in the other eggs in the basket. So
yeah.
So we'll see. I don't think, right, and I think it's something important to talk about with the Exalt press, is that if you're a new player, right, and I know you felt very strongly about this when we sort of chatted about these topics, that you're not, it's just because an Exalt costs 112 chaos or whatever. And I'm looking at it right now. It says 112 on the buy. Oh, this is another little pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
I hope people, like, again, talk about, we need tutorials. There's two sides to PoE trade. There's a buy order and a sell order, right? And so one of them is always, unfortunately, the scam price, right? One of the directions.
Yeah, where you're buying
or selling, right? And it's different for different pieces of currency, unfortunately. So there's no consistent way.
I guess. No, yeah, I guess.
Right. So I mean, most of the time it's the better thing, giving someone the better thing, and then it's a high price. That's the actual current ratio. And then the other thing is the people who are like, oh sure, I'll give you 50 chaos for an Exalt, whatever, some stupid number. But yeah, I think that you see this in action. Of course, if you're somebody who, like, I just want chisels, so I put up a buy order on a non-scam price, like the actual ratio. I get whispers all day for it.
Yes.
So it's like, if we can get some of this stuff, maybe some of this will be solved. But then on the other hand, I think if you're a new player and you're earning a chaos a map or 2 chaos a map, or however whatever you earn per map, I actually don't think that this overly affects you, right? Because there's tons of gear to be had that's 85% as good as the thing that costs 100x. And it costs 3 chaos or 2 chaos. So, I would hope people say, this is a problem that we want to address, for especially in a mature league. We're 1 month in, but new players, you're still fine. You're nowhere near at the point where you need to worry about, oh my God, it's 5x for this thing. No. You're spending if you're new and you're starting out, you're spending your money wrong at that point.
A lot of people came to me and said, oh, how am I as a new player ever able to afford anything?
Right.
And it doesn't take much to, whenever let's say that the only thing that went up in price was like Chevron's wrappings. Just because Chevron's wrappings goes up in price doesn't mean that you necessarily, like, it is the only way for you as a new player to play the game. There are plenty of other options that hasn't changed in price.
Right.
And not everything is listed in Exalts, only the very most expensive pieces. And so everything else that gets listed in Chaos, if you have an Exalt, if they remain the same price in Chaos, then you can just buy a ton more whenever you actually find one. But you can't just go out and buy multiple like Exalts. So as long as you're not trading within the Exalts, then nothing is really changed. It might actually be a benefit to you as a new player. The fact that there are these few very expensive pieces that just sell for way more.
Yeah, and then because if you find one or you find an Exalt, then all of a sudden you're super. I mean,
Yeah.
I personally, I don't like that anyway, as I really wish it was you just being an active trader netted you more money. And that's of course still true. I just think that
Well, I think being an active trader is actually one of the things that earn you the most money in this game.
oh, for sure, for sure. No, there's no substitute for just playing the game. When somebody looks at my channel, looks at your channel, and they're like, "Wow, you're so rich." You know, dude, we've played so much PoE in the past 4 weeks; it would make you vomit if we really tallied it all. So,
Yeah.
you know, and so I think that I do think that's the other problem is people have as a barometer, you know, Mathel, right? Or I just try to think of people who change builds a lot. I mean, Mathel's who really comes to mind, and I'm not trying to forget anybody, but so he
Well, if you go
does.
by currency, you look at Cistern and you're like, wait,
So it's got
how
five
am I
mirrors.
ever supposed to get 4 mirrors? Well, you're not supposed to.
No, yeah. Right. That's a unique thing. Farm Uber in theory, have 1,000, you know, 3,000-4,000 people in your chat, sell 3 spots every run, right? So yeah, that's like you should be holding that up to yourself as a barometer. Now, if that's your goal, that's why I think that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
That if your goal, like I want to have 5 mirrors someday, okay, well here's that you know what you have to do, have to play, you know, at least 3 or 4 hours a day, probably more.
Well, okay,
Right from
if
the
we go
start.
by Sis here, and you told someone, how do I get 5 mirrors within the league? Well, let's see. Cicerin played probably 15 hours a day since the league started.
Yeah.
Up until now. So how far are we in a month? A little over, a little.
No, I think it's today exactly a month or tomorrow. It's going to launch on the 3rd, 3/3.
Something like that, I think. Yeah, so you have to play 15 hours a day for 30 days. So it's 450 hours. So after 450 hours of playing a meta build, because you have to play a meta build, because you have to go really fast as well. And you have to do a lot of trading with a lot of knowledge. So you have to accumulate knowledge, play for 450 hours, play a meta build. Here you go. This is the entry level of getting to this point. Yeah. If you tell that to players, they're like, well, I might not be willing to do that. Well, okay, then you're not getting the mirrors either.
Yeah, but it's so key to me though. You could have just as much fun without that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
that's the part But I understand why people they feel like they're left in the dust or they're left behind, and I come back to I really think, I think that something like the automated auction house for currency would help out the players who really can only play an hour a day. Because like they play and they're like, you know what, I don't need chisels because I don't map, or when I map I just put it in white because I'm trying to not spend money. And they could list all that stuff when they go to work or they're doing something else or they're with their family. I mean, it would help me. Even though I play so much, I'm still not here all the time, and I would be able to just, okay, I have 100 chaos and I want chisels for that 100 chaos, and if I would get all those trades. And I think it would really help out. It would help people out and not materially affect the game. And I think people would feel better, even if it's not true. Maybe people are actually in a worse position somehow, but they would, again, it's feeling better.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah. It's like the League Stones.
Yeah.
When every mod is on, I was like, I mean, okay, like whatever. But being able to pick the stones you can put in, that actually, and I want to, okay, if we leave aside the annoying parts to it, because again, as we talked about, this is version 1 of League Stones. Right?
Yeah.
Version 3 of League Stones is going to be really sweet. If we leave aside that part, managing the stones and your inventory and stuff, I love the choose your own battle. I mean, like that's the definition of fun, right? I can choose the
and
battle.
This is the I would say this is the, if anything, it's the what do you call it? It's in the spirit of PoE.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
You can do anything, and you can decide, and you can design, and you can customize.
Right. Exactly.
I want to actually I want to just touch on the whole with the new players if you're introducing, because I actually think it's on the, let's say we could have a currency auction house, right? Let's just call it that. Whatever, currency exchange, whatever we call it, doesn't matter. The thing is, if you have that, then smaller currencies, when they become easier to trade, well, then you don't feel bad if you're the guy picking up the chrome. You see all these, you see all the racers going zoom zoom, picking only exalts and almost leaving chaos at this point. But every time you pick up a chrome, you know, well, I just found a tenth of a chaos, and I can get that immediately. So if you're trying to say, you're trying to accumulate a five quick chaos to buy something, well, then you pick up, let's say you pick up a Chisler Chrome and 4 alterations. Well, that's almost a chaos right there. And you go and you exchange that, and immediately, boom, you have it. And then you can still have and then there's going to be a good mix of, well, the people who really like to just pick up all the small things and just kind of like combine into chaos. And you have the people who just want to go fast. And then if there's a big enough demand for the smaller things, well, then it makes sense to to spend some of your time doing that in your maps. And maybe you just have something that's automated with like summons and specters, and you can just go around and pick up everything while they do all the work.
Right. Can I say, what a great point. I'd never thought about it exactly like that, and that's so true, because I would say I'm somebody who likes to pick up all the things, right? That's I would definitely, and like, so people see me now, I'm mapping pretty fast this league when my internet works. Well, I'm not picking up a lot of stuff I normally pick up, and I think that's such a good point in terms of I don't know if it would necessarily slow the game down, because there'd still be the zoom people, as you eloquently put it. But
of course.
But then there's the people you don't feel as bad playing the slow build. No, I think that's such a good point. Man, I just, man, God, if there was a unique supporter pack, but the unique thing I got to design was an auction house, I would buy that instead of designing another unique.
I think a lot of people would do that. Yeah.
Man, I almost can't even function, because I'm thinking about how right you are about how it would re-incentivize people picking up chromes and alts and augs and whatever.
That's all you need to do. You need to incentivize people to do the kind of the smaller things, the trades, the small, like the up trading into a chaos, and all these small incremental things that some people really enjoy. I enjoy it as well.
Right. The gum, right? Who calls it, like Havoc or ETEP calls it gum. I don't know if all the gum stuff. And it's so interesting, because it's interesting the sort of arc of those items over. Again, you'd have been playing as long as you and I have, but I know for me, I used to pick them up because you picked up everything, really, if it was currency, and then you could exchange and whatever. Then it got kind of annoying exchanging stuff. But that's been going on a long time, I feel like. I now pick up stuff because I never want to trade for it. So when somebody's like, Moors, do you have chromes for me? Yes, but I keep them for myself, because I never want to go to trade chat or something to get chromes at this point, because that is like the worst. Then they introduced the PoE currency thing, so it came back a little bit. So it's a little less imperative, and so I've stopped picking up everything as much as I used to.
Yes.
And so it's interesting. Like you're saying, re-incentivizing, I think would be a great thing to do, and help out new players with that. And I do, I want to touch on, I know it's a sort of a pet peeve to mine, but I'm curious what you think, and I'm really curious what other people sort of think about it. I know that it's unique to me, unlike really 10, 15 other people, where when the 1 month comes in, our alt art race rewards tabs show up, and then all of a sudden I have, literally 350 more tabs in my thing of race rewards that I haven't taken out. Okay, so all right, so that annoyance, they shouldn't do anything to fix that. But it always highlights for me that we don't have a button, even just home and end or whatever, to move tabs around, move to front, move to end. If that's if they can't, or like, even because at this point, I realized so this is interesting. We were talking about tabs moving faster. I think they made it a little faster through coding or something. But once you have a tab that's long enough, so like mine will say Winterheart Race League 7, remove tab only, or whatever it says. It's it's like 60 characters. Shifting a tab over that takes as long as shifting it over 5 tabs, it feels like. 5
Okay.
tabs when they're just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the tab is only half a centimeter on your screen.
Yeah, yeah.
So I like, it's interesting having, so if you're somebody who's like, I name my, 5 links for sale, shifting that around will take a long time, versus if they just had a home or put it at the start, put it at the end, you could move things around in your stash. And I think it would help people a lot if
Or
they
if you
didn't
could,
give us.
if you could maybe,
Yeah.
let's say that there was you can like you right click the tab, move to,
Right.
and then
Right.
and then there's just a number on the spot you want it in.
Okay. Sure. Or they just let us have a tab filter in some, but it's not a filter, of course. I'm just saying, like, the same sort of thing where we can design a custom
I think
set,
if they,
and you can upload it for each new league. All your tabs look like they always look, right?
well, yeah,
That would
or
solve the
maybe it
problem.
just it takes the you have a template being your hardcore or whatever. They can
Right.
take from. Or, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Something like, it's just a pet peeve. I hope that
Oh yeah.
that's something that they could deal with. And I feel like with more people playing and them pushing quad tabs and all these, there's all these tabs and stuff, reorganizing your tabs every league is just such it's not hard. Maybe you only have to do it once. Although for me, it would take an hour or 2 hours maybe to set it all up. But if it's just, that's what I'm always so puzzled. If it's literally just, it has to be just a database, right? Or something. Can't we just copy that? I know I'm not a programmer, and I'm not trying to say I'm not trying to say I'm an
roasted
armchair
for this,
programmer.
Morris. I can feel it
But
already.
I know they're going to come out and get me. But can I have it explained to me why we can't have that? Yeah. So anyway, because think about it. If we're going to be on Xbox, are people really going to manage all this crap on Xbox? Right. So like, that's why I'm saying, like, some of these quality of life things that would really massively benefit the PC people have to be something they've crossed their minds if they're going to put it on Xbox, because
I think at some point you have to just double down on the system you've taken, and you have to start improving upon it. Because it feels to me that they keep kind of avoiding the issue because they're not 100% sure whether or not they think that is this the finalized version of our inventory management system or whatever. It feels to me as if they don't want to add too many things because then they commit.
Okay, interesting.
So
would you say then, though, like, what's a good example of something like that, like the map changes in the map system?
Well, they had all these things. Okay, so they announced the API and all the trading improvements, and they gave us like API and that's it. Right? They didn't really give us more, and they said they had so many things. It just feels to me as if they had all these ideas they wanted to start implementing, but then something came along and it wasn't perfect.
Okay.
Like, I might not be right. Like, it's just how I perceive it. I might be wrong, right? I'm not saying that that is specifically how they intended it, but it's how it's coming across to me, at least. That they have all these great ideas, but they just, for whatever reason, they don't wanna actually put anything in and commit to it, right? Because then.
So let me read, okay? Because this is key. And
okay.
I'm not going to read the whole post.
No.
The title of the thing, first wave of trade improvements. That's it. You don't even need to read the rest of it. What went on, API, because first of all, the word first and then wave. So waves usually come in, there's lots of waves, and they said first anyway. So that means that there's something that was February 29th, 2016. So we're a year, 2 months past that. So you could see why people are like, okay, where's wave 2? So anyway, so keep going. So I think that's your impression. They might not say in the post, by the way, and here's the 3 other things we're doing or whatever.
No.
But the impression you get from reading it in the title is that there's more.
Yes.
Coming. Yes.
And then I also think that it's just, to me, with all the trading and everything over time, is that whenever Chris talks about it, he's very hesitant on committing to anything. And it makes sense that he is. That he's afraid of, or not afraid, but he's hesitant to commit to saying whether or not they're going in whichever direction they are, because it's hard to take it back once they've committed.
True.
But I do think that it's important that they do commit to something, and they do start saying, well, this is what we're doing now. especially with 3.0 coming around and with trading. And if they want tabs to be cluttered so that and there has to be all these small currencies, so we want to buy all the things, well, then also give us some functionality within that, so it's easier to move all this stuff around, at least.
Right.
As long as they make the commitment that, okay, this is just how it is. We need to make money, and this is how we're going to do it. It has to be a little bit cumbersome, and there has to be a lot of things you have to do, but at least you have some good functionality whenever you move things around. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, like that reminds me. That's the other thing I really wish you could have a reverse tab where when you click or control click, it goes to the top left. I want to control click and goes to the bottom right or the top right. You could choose where it starts sorting from. At least for me, I meant like at least currency. When I know everyone did it differently. My currency was always the bottom right square was the most expensive currency. So that's where I put Exalts before the currency tab. And it's where I put maps now. The bottom right, and work from the right over, because it's less distance for your mouse to move. I mean, I know that's sort of silly, but
no, we all have our small things to improve.
Small things, yeah. So
to improve our own quality of life. That's why we do it.
Right. Yeah. So it's like if the couple of these things come along, but I do want to get two things.
Okay.
A little devil's advocate. I agree with you, and I do think Chris, he unfortunately has to be right. He has to do things the way he does them, because we've seen. I actually don't think GGG's ever had an example of they announce something and it bombs, right? That's never happened, has it? Something has totally bombed.
No,
I don't think so. There's other gaming companies clearly have examples of that.
Yes.
I can't think of one off the top of my head, but Riot Games says the solo queue. That's right.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
And then people went absolutely crazy. And I think there was something with Hearthstone, and I don't remember what it was offhand. But so big, this is clearly a pitfall, and Chris is very good at avoiding that. So I think it's a lot of credit to him. But I do think that's sort of then their thought process, right? So like desync, we had no idea desync was going to be gone, and then they announced it was going to be gone. So that's our hope. I mean, unfortunately, that leads us to a situation where we're in hope mode for like 2.5 years with trading.
Yes.
And if no trading comes with 3.0, I mean, I guess I'm obviously still going to play. I don't know. I don't know what does it take to get something done, because I think that it's weird too. And because I've been sort of ignoring trade a little bit and only really focusing on my expensive stuff for sale. And then I was making a new character, and I needed to buy a Vol Lightning Trap. And I normally, people say, well, more as you go slow, you pick up all the stuff. Well, there's a reason I pick up a lot of stuff, because then I never have to deal with it on the back end when I need something. So now I just happen to never have seen Vol Lightning Trap for this character. And I had been thinking about making this character for a while. And on stream, I whispered 35 people before I got somebody to respond to sell me. And I literally would have paid any amount I would pay 10 CAS for it. They go for 3 CAS. I don't care. Just give me the thing. That's all I want. So I hope that, and man, it's crazy, because it really takes me out of enjoying the game. And again, the problem being, it's not an expensive, sought after, rare item, right? I searched just because of course I wasn't getting responses. I searched buyout only online. Yeah, I think that was it. So there were and it was early in the morning. So I think America wasn't up, and there were still 65 for sale. And I would have paid any price for it. So I just was going down the list, messaging everybody. So yeah, anyway, not to go nuts. I'm really hopeful that 3.0 brings some relief from that, because if trading is a part of the game, it shouldn't be something that takes you out of. Although of course I understand the people who say they hate it in general because it like ruins your immersion. Well, then we have solo stuff on for that now, right? Okay,
yeah.
And I don't like that. Also, that's like a cop-out answer. We'll go play solo self-found. Right? That's such a bullshit.
No,
answer.
I would. It's yeah.
Yeah, they would never say that. So okay. Anyway,
they shouldn't. They should never say that. That should never be the go-to. If you, our one system sucks, so go play where it's not. When that's where we don't have that. Like what?
But I do think that it has to be the answer for the people who are unreasonable about it. People who are like, well,
okay, yeah.
You're never going to be able to fix it. Well, okay,
No.
man. At that point, just we got this other thing. Go have fun, I guess. Right.
Yeah. No.
So if the map system is something that they've done really well, and sort of in the genesis of all this stuff we've been talking about, how the committing to because it feels like they committed to the Atlas system, right? That was their third version of maps, maybe more than that, but like they really had a good. So, but there's been a lot of talk lately about sextants and shaping and stuff.
Yeah, whether or not it's gone too far.
Right.
It's basically what is being asked. Has it gone too far? Is this too good, and is it the only way to play the game? To where, well, if you see the comments on any stream, it's like, oh, another stream where the only thing that we see is Shape Strands, Resident Sleeper, right? Shape Strands as Resident Sleeper is like the new meme because everyone plays it.
Right.
Because it's easy, but then we're kind of back in Chris's old. This is, I don't know whether or not this is actually the perfect scenario that Chris was thinking about when he said playing the game while watching TV. Because that is literally what Shape Strand is.
Right.
And it's nice. People like that. I think that's a good thing. I think it's okay to embrace the fact that some players like this type of gameplay.
Right.
Though I do think it's kind of sad though, having played the leagues prior to this without any shape strats, like the 2 leagues prior to this, and how much I was enjoying that, but now I'm playing with the shape strand stuff. It feels just a little bit too good in comparison to doing like everything.
But how much is that just because of the layout of the map? Like for me, this is what I've always talked about. I would level and ledge from 0 to 60, and at some, I mean, that's maybe not that, but I just mean I used to be able to, when things were different, I'd spend 10 levels every difficulty in ledge, and then blitz through the rest of the content.
Yeah,
and that now. Because I want to say all the people complain about I can't play 3 difficulties over again. Okay, dude, we'll make 2,000 race characters and then start talking about doing this stuff. But still, they've really kind of done away with that. But there's a reason why I like them ledge over and over again, because it's thin, it's easy, you're not going to miss the mobs. If they make, and I think Atoll, like if let's say they got rid of Strand, I would just switch to Atoll. It wouldn't be as good, but it's basically the same thing, except it's
oh no, I think the shape strat in general is actually I think it's a very ingenious little piece of game design, honestly.
Fantastic. I had no idea it worked. Like I quit Atlas of Worlds. I was busy and I wasn't too interested in it. I don't know if people really knew how the shape orb worked, or did it come out right away during that?
People actually figured it out pretty quickly.
Okay.
There was a lot of theory crafting going on the shape stuff. I wasn't playing it much at that time, but I do know I do remember a lot of people really going into great lengths on how to shape things, and even before the Atlas came out, I remember people talking about, well, there is a way where you don't ever run certain maps and you just run this map over and over and over again. So it was discovered very early.
Okay.
But there was a lot of talk whether or not it would be the best strategy, which because there's no, I feel like they should do more iterations on the Atlas itself. They should be more open to just changing it up a little bit between leagues, at least changing maybe the locations, maybe not making the best layout maps, having the best sextant locations. Not sure if it's right, take this with a grain of salt. There might be better locations, but maybe make them a little less attractive, at least on some locations.
Well, isn't Shore, like I haven't shaped Shore because by the time I was going to, my net was broken. But
Shore is not the greatest, I think.
I thought it was the greatest for the sextant.
Was it?
Oh, I could definitely be. I am totally new to the sextant block the mod thing, and it's interesting. I mean, I always think it's so fascinating when I hear people say something and then I go look at it in practice, and in practice it's not what they said, right? I feel like that's the interesting part to PoE is things are so complex, and sometimes people express things and they take it for a given that why fact is a given. Well, I mean, I've never sextant blocked, so I don't, maybe I don't know this, when I hear you can block bad mods, to me, my brain goes, well, I'll never see that mod ever. But in reality, you can block you block them spawning a fair amount of the time on certain maps that ring that map, if you follow what I'm saying. Like you're
I saw a video or a picture of someone who spawned a sextant mod that did nothing. Because they had blocked everything.
They blocked right. Okay. So fine. I get that part. But then you're still, let's say you're not spending a bajillion sextants and you can't run any map but shore. But even then, I'm pretty sure there's still going to be some mods that are going to spawn, because even if it's blocked on a map that touches it to the left, when you roll a sextant on the one to the right that's blocked another bad mod, you could get the bad mod. I'm again, people.
It seemed to me that you could kind of chain you could make like a chain through all of them, because one and then they would chain to the other, and it would kind of combine everything into one, and that's why, because it seemed that he just had the whole right side, all like with different things, and then the one in the middle or whatever was then blocked for everything. Right. But it becomes very complicated though to do all this, but.
And the video I was watching was about Strand, and then in practical application of Strand, sure, some stuff is blocked. I get that, but not really that much stuff. I mean, so Shore, I haven't experimented with Shore. Shore seems like, since I think Strand is like 6 or 7 maps, where Shore has like potential of 8 direct maps, where Strand's only like 3 direct maps. So yeah. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think that, since this is how PoE works, where people take everything to the point of killing it and forcing GG to kill it, GGG to kill whatever it is, like cock builds or so are we at that point where they're forced to change just because people feel, even if it's not stale?
Okay, so I think we are at the point where they should change. I think we've gotten into stalemate metas too many times now, with the whole. Well, if you just see Burn and Ignite, with Flame Blast, like how many leagues is this supposed to be the go-to thing every time? Kind of died down a little bit this time.
But it's back to, but it's still, totems are still the best way to level right at the start of the league.
I still have Ball Fireball.
But can we say that's because Flame Blast is just the best designed skill they've ever released? Period. Right, because it's a good mix of, if you stand there, you get a huge benefit, and it's an AoE thing, but it can also do single target and works a bunch of different ways.
It can it can be slower, it can be fast, right? You can tap, you could go boom, big boom, yeah. And
I feel like that partly is just because the skill's really well designed, although clearly, right.
Well, the burn mechanic is just if imagine the skill and then it was lightning.
Right. It'd be cool, but it wouldn't. It wouldn't be the same thing.
No.
Yeah. So you think that they should change the sextant stuff or modify it or whatever?
I think they should modify. I think in general they should be more open to doing some small changes, swap things around a little bit, make it interesting from league to league. I know that the counter argument I would assume would be, well, what about the people who have gotten used to this or are playing not too much and they didn't get to experience it? And how long are we supposed to keep something that is very, I don't know whether you want to kind of broke, but how long do we keep certain mechanics within the game to allow all players to have played it?
Right.
I don't know. Then my argument would be, well, how long do you like? Wouldn't you kind of give players more of a wouldn't you incentive them to be more active within given leagues so that they feel like, well, if we don't do it now, we might miss out? So the fear that it would scare off some players, well, it would also make players maybe be more attentive and
it's interesting because that's 2 points. I don't want it to change because I like running Strand. Again, it's what I've been looking for a long time. No, but I understand that's just my personal. Okay. But I think I like your idea in terms of incentivizing people, because I'm going for 100 this league, because what if they change it? I mean, I don't think that'll ever go away, but what if it becomes 5 days longer of push time. You know, when you're say above 97, it takes 5 days longer. I think, or 3 days. That's a conceivable balance change they can make. Like if they change maps a little bit, or shaping strats become less good, so you have to deal with it, so you get less XP per hour because you can't just blitz through the thing. So that's why I'm doing it, pushing now, because I've never done it, and so I say, okay, what if it changes? I don't know. I'd rather do it now, and I think that's a good point in terms of changing the maps. Give people good experience. Okay, try to shape it or try to run every map. Like I've done now basically 2 leagues of shaped.
Yeah.
But if I hit 100 on this character, I think I'm going to try to start farming Guardians with my Ancestral Warchief guy, just for fun.
Yeah.
Farm Shaper.
Yeah.
So that means that maybe I'll kill a bunch of those maps that people, you know, or like I need Steel Rings maybe.
Yeah.
I guess that's a Volcano that drops them. I've never done Volcano since Atlas came out. I used to do it all the time. So maybe I'll start farming that. So I think
it could be a very lucrative endeavor for you as well.
Right, exactly. So you know, I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah, I don't think we should ruin shaping for people. I think that would be a mistake. I do see. I understand how it feels like. Well, you have to run this and that, but
right.
I think minor adjustments within the Atlas system is all it takes. Also, if you hinder movement speed skills and you make very long maps with the same, let's say that in general, like let's say you make Strand even longer, but you don't increase the amount of things that are in there. So you still have this linear thing, but if you don't have the movement speed to traverse it as fast, well then you just end up walking a little bit more, and maybe you would rather play some of the more compact maps rather than the long linear maps.
Sure.
Right? So without actually changing density or changing layout or changing anything, by reducing some movement speed and making the layouts maybe a little bit longer, but still as per map as efficient, that's a way of kind of bringing the more like the indoors maps, maybe making them more interesting in comparison. Because it's all about the relativity between the maps, whether or not you want to run one or the other. Because one seems strong, like it seems more, just whenever you run them multiple times, it seems like you're gaining more from doing this thing rather than the other.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because I shaped Arachnotomb, and I did that last league, and I had fun running them on my characters. You know, you did it easily. But I unshaped it this league because it was like, I don't know, we had a Golem character and we had an EA character, and being in there was honestly just a little annoying for projectiles. Yeah. And so, you know, I want them to have obviously the variety is good, but it seems like no matter what they do, an outdoor map is always going to be the thing, whatever it ends up being. So I like that. I'm nervous about the change like that if they change the density or the length a little bit, because we already have sometimes where you run what feels like 4 screens in Strand. Obviously, it's just it's a weird layout where there's no monsters. Yeah. So but I think you're right. There's something to be said for that, right? They make it a little just slightly less appealing, though it's still appealing if you go 50% movement speed, or you have a lot of, you know, shield charge or movement, whatever skills. But that's a whole separate issue, of course. So,
but I think it ties together, though. Like the way we move through things really change how good a map is. So a kind of a meta change to the game will then affect the maps.
Right. Because to me, if you made it so movement speed was less, you couldn't just be going at the speed of the Flash all the time. I think Shore or you're like whatever these compact maps would be that are more like a circle or square or whatever would be better at that point. Maybe like Arachnotomb, because it's kind of dense. It's just you have to get through all these little rooms.
Crypt and then catacombs, and those are very compact.
Right. As long as there's not those stupid dead ends I hate, but that's okay. That's the map.
It's kind of like it's just kind of a square. Those are just kind of a square where you just go one circle and then you're done.
Right.
But you don't move that far. You just go into these small rooms all the time.
Yeah. Something that I had said that I wanted to talk about. This is a little just 30-second thing. I really was saying I really kind of at this point miss, since I'm now really mapping a lot, and normally I map sort of a casual pace, I miss not having a TP button like they had in D2. And somebody was saying, well, that's Portal Gem. That still takes up a gem slot.
And it takes 2 seconds to cast your
so long. Yeah. No. So that's kind of interesting to me that that's not something that they've ever wanted. I wonder what the thought process is behind that. Because, they were also saying at one point you could press a button and get different hotbar keys.
Oh,
Or
like a
I'm saying that right.
toggle for
A toggle. So you hold Z and then, whatever your buttons are, Q, W, whatever, all do different things, which of course that was for summoners or aura people, right? So they could hit toggle, cast their stuff, untoggle, go into normal mode. And so, I mean, it feels like something like a TP scroll button would suit your alt, your auras and TP, and maybe one other thing are on the alt.
I would love that.
Yeah, I think that'd be such a great change. All right. Well, I think that's basically it. I think that we've covered a lot of things.
Yeah.
We've talked about a lot of things. So what is your feeling? Should we talk about the potential upcoming guest?
Sure. We can just air it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Nugi, go. This is
well.
You.
I talked to one of the things I really wanted to talk about here on the podcast was the influx of all the D2 players and their racing community. And so I reached out to Mr. Lama, and he said that he was very open to coming on the podcast. So I will see. So I'll have to contact him and see whether or not I can get him on for the next show next week.
Okay.
So I'll try and figure out whether or not that will become a reality very soon.
And it could be last minute, right? Since you and our podcast is pretty. I don't want it to come across like we don't prepare, because we very, very much prepare for stuff, but we also can change. We have several topics sort of in the wings, right?
Yes.
Nugi and I have spent some time sort of cultivating, talking about what do we want to talk about. So having him come on, it would be very easy. Like if he says to Nugi Saturday at 2 p.m., hey, I can come on the podcast, we can make that work, right?
Yeah,
the next 24 hours. Sure. I mean, if he says it a half hour before the podcast, obviously it would be like, okay, well, that's probably not gonna work.
No.
But so it could be a last sort of minute announcement, but we'd like to have since he indicated he wanted to come on.
Yeah.
Feeling is sometime relatively soon he would want to come on, right? Yeah. That's okay.
I think one of the things I really would like us to do here on the podcast is just in general have just maybe a little different conversations with not always the people within the well-known people in the community.
Yeah.
Right. If that makes sense. I know we had a lot of good feedback on ETUB, and a lot of people they want Havoc, they want Sis, and they want all their favorite persons within the community. And sure, we could do that, but I'm not sure if that would be. It wouldn't create that much interesting discussion, because it would be a lot of reiteration of what's on everyone's mind within the community. So, yeah.
I think that's like if I know someone I would never want to have on is Hellman. I mean, he is just the worst. That was fun. I like that. I hope he would be either watching or listening at some point. But I think that's such a good. It's true. Wow, Burns. Wikipedia.burnscenters.org.
Oh,
but
real quick here. Okay. On Burns.
Yes.
How happy were you getting that saber last night?
Oh my God. And for anyone who hasn't seen, I guess it's a clip of my channel. I put it up on my YouTube. I don't even know what I called it. The guy who was killing Chayula for us trolled me. I have never been trolled in my life in PoE. I mean, maybe one other time, and I can't think of it right now. Because I hate saying stuff like that when I've been playing PoE for 6 years. But my God, and my reaction, I was so butthurt and salty that I don't know. You should just watch the clip, because I don't want to spoil any of it. But yeah, I heard that he told me he linked it to you and you laughed.
So, it's very funny. It's one of my one of the best things that happened today.
Okay, well, I'm very happy that I can provide amusement. I do find that with my personality and kind of the person I am, when somebody gets me good like that, everyone finds it really funny. So I've accepted the fact that being the butt of the joke, that's an okay thing sometimes. I really don't have a problem with that. Because even I laughed when I watched it 3 times when I was editing it for YouTube. I was laughing at myself. I was like, God, you look so stupid. Like you're like, oh no. And anyway, so yeah, so you can check that out. So speaking of, it's a very, you know what's a very nice segue. You can find that clip at my YouTube, which is youtube.com/ more sexy, I believe. And then obviously you can find my channel, Twitch TV/ Moore's Rage NG. And Noogie's channel is
nugiyen, and that is both on YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and wherever else you want to find me.
You're much more professional having consistent names. I like that. You know, Twitch didn't let me have the name I wanted. They were like, no. So I was like, okay. And I actually asked YouTube, can I change my name? And I believe they said no. So I was like, all right. But then also, if you're interested, the coffeetalkpodcast.com, you can find all of our stuff. You can RSS, iTunes, Google Play. So basically every single way you could listen to a podcast, it's available there. You only have to go there once, click the link. We will have a timer countdown to podcast and maybe announcement of the upcoming stuff once Moores figures out how to PHP and such, I guess. It'll be a journey that we'll take together.
Yes.
We will start from a place of thinking you know something, and then journeying into the place of how can this not be working? And we'll all do it together. It'll be fun. So that's it. And I want to thank everyone for listening to Coffee Talk Podcast number 6. It didn't come to me. I was hoping.
Yeah.
I was hoping it would come to me right there in that moment, a moment of clarity. And it would be 1 month leagues, 1 month in, mature and busty. No, that came out wrong. So, so yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah.